James Harrison stared at his reflection in the polished chrome wall of his cell aboard the Xeraxian mothership. The alien metal was so perfectly maintained he could count every gray hair in his beard, a testament to the Xeraxian's obsession with absolute precision. 20 years in Earth special operations had taught him that perfection was often the greatest weakness. Nature thrived on chaos, adaptation, and imperfection. The Xeraxians were about to learn this lesson the hard way. The ship's artificial gravity shifted slightly, exactly 0.0001% according to his stolen sensor pad. Right on schedule. James allowed himself a small smile. The Xeraxian's rigid adherence to protocols was making his job almost too easy. 3 sets of footsteps approached his cell, each step exactly 0.75 meters apart. The Xeraxian guards moved with machine-like precision, their silvery armor gleaming under the ship's pristine lighting. Each stood exactly 2.5 meters tall, their crystalline eyes glowing an intimidating shade of emerald. Human prisoner James Harrison, the lead guard announced, its metallic voice modulated to exactly 70 decibels. You will now submit to interrogation according to Protocol 5, Alpha, 7. Just Jimmy is fine, James replied cheerfully. And I have to say, love what you've done with the place. Though the lighting's a bit harsh. Have you considered mood lighting? Really sets the tone for an interrogation. The guard's crystalline eyes flickered in confusion. Their species had evolved to value order above all else, turning their entire civilization into a living computer program of protocols and procedures. They had no reference point for casual conversation or humor. Irrelevant statement, the second guard declared. Proceed to interrogation chamber according to Movement Protocol 3, Beta, 4. James stood slowly, making sure to move in the most inefficient way possible while still technically complying with their protocols. Each tiny deviation from their expected pattern sent tiny ripples of confusion through their neural networks. By the time they reached the interrogation chamber, the guard's synchronized movements had developed a barely perceptible stutter. The interrogation chamber was a marvel of alien engineering. Every surface was arranged at precisely calculated angles to maximize psychological discomfort, at least for their own species. To James, it looked like an overdesigned dentist's office. You will now explain how you penetrated our defense grid, the lead interrogator demanded, its voice perfectly modulated. According to protocol, lying will result in immediate neural scanning. James leaned back in the interrogation chair, which automatically adjusted to maintain optimal discomfort. Funny story about that. Did you know your defense grid has exactly 2,547 overlapping protocols? Must be really challenging to maintain all those perfect patterns. The interrogator's crystalline eyes flickered rapidly, the Xeraxian equivalent of a frown. State your infiltration method. Protocols require dash. Oh, protocols. James interrupted enthusiastically. Let's talk about Protocol 7, Gamma, 9. You know, the one about maintaining optimal security patterns during solar flare activity? Interesting thing about that one, it creates a tiny overlap with Protocol 4, Delta, 3 regarding shield harmonics. Totally insignificant really. Unless. The interrogator's eyes began strobing as it automatically accessed and cross-referenced the mentioned protocols. James continued, each carefully researched statement sending more and more processes running through the Xeraxian's neural networks. And then there's the fascinating interaction between your gravity well protocols and the waste management systems. Did you know that a 0.0001% gravity fluctuation can trigger exactly 17 different emergency responses? Pretty impressive level of detail there. Warning lights began flashing as the ship's systems detected the cascading protocol conflicts James had initiated hours earlier. The Xeraxians had created the perfect machine of war, but they'd forgotten one crucial detail: the more complex the machine, the more points of failure. Unauthorized analysis of security protocols detected, the interrogator announced, its voice losing its perfect modulation. Implementing containment procedures according to Dash. The artificial gravity hiccuped again, this time by 0.0002%. Alarms began blaring in perfect harmony, which would have been impressive if it wasn't a sign of the ship's systems starting to unravel. James settled back in his chair, watching chaos bloom throughout the perfect order of the Xeraxian ship. They had expected him to try to escape. They had protocols for that. They had protocols for every possible action he might take. What they didn't have was a protocol for someone who wanted to be exactly where he was, saying exactly the right things to send their carefully ordered world spiraling into beautiful chaos. "Should we discuss Protocol 9 Epsilon 12 next?" he asked innocently. "The one about handling cascading system failures during prisoner interrogations?" The interrogator's crystalline eyes went dark as its neural networks crashed from protocol overload. Phase 1 was complete. Now the real fun would begin. The Xeraxian mothership's command center resembled a geometric work of art. Holographic displays formed perfect fractals of information, each screen positioned at precisely calculated angles. At least, they were perfect until James Harrison's carefully orchestrated chaos began to spread. Supreme Commander Nix, 427, stood rigidly at the center of the command platform, its crystalline eyes rapidly shifting between emergency reports. The commander's silver armor, normally polished to molecular perfection, showed signs of stress microfractures, a physical manifestation of the disorder infecting their systems. "Status report," Nix, 427 demanded, its voice modulation struggling to maintain regulation frequencies. "Multiple system failures cascading through sectors 7 through 19, reported Subcommander Vex, 139. Environmental controls are fluctuating beyond acceptable parameters. Gravity systems are experiencing unexplained variations of 0.0003% and rising. Implement Emergency Protocol 12 Delta 8, Nix, 427 ordered." Unable to comply, Vex, 139 responded, its crystalline eyes flickering in distress. Emergency Protocol 12 Delta 8 conflicts with currently active Containment Protocol 7 Alpha 3. Attempting to resolve protocol hierarchy. In his interrogation chamber, James watched the mounting chaos through the ship's own monitoring systems. He'd spent months studying Xeraxian technology, learning how their rigid adherence to protocols could be turned against them. Every system on their ships was interconnected, each following thousands of precisely defined protocols. It was magnificent engineering, but it had one critical flaw: it assumed everything would always work exactly as planned. Warning, the ship's artificial intelligence announced, its perfect voice developing an unusual stutter. Detecting unauthorized access to primary systems. Implementing security protocols. Error. Security protocols currently locked by environmental emergency procedures. James smiled. The Xeraxians had built their entire civilization on the principle of perfect order. Their protocols were designed to handle any situation, but only if that situation followed their predetermined patterns. They had no protocols for handling simultaneous failures that shouldn't be possible according to their carefully calculated probabilities. Throughout the massive ship, chaos spread like a virus through their perfect systems. Cleaning drones, confused by conflicting maintenance protocols, began polishing already spotless surfaces with increasing intensity. Security teams, trapped between emergency response protocols and standard patrol patterns, marched in endless loops through corridors. The ship's artificial gravity continued its subtle dance between slightly too heavy and slightly too light, throwing off the Xeraxians' precisely calibrated movements. "Sir," another officer reported to Nix, 427, "the prisoner's vital signs are showing impossible readings. According to our sensors, his heart rate is simultaneously 0 and 300 beats per minute." "That cannot be correct," Nix, 427 declared. "Check the medical monitoring protocols. Medical protocols are currently locked due to environmental system conflicts. Attempting to override. Error. Override protocols require security clearance currently suspended by emergency procedures." James stretched in his chair, enjoying the mounting frustration in the Zyraxians' voices. He'd spent weeks feeding their systems contradictory data about human biology. Now their medical protocols were trying to compensate for impossible conditions, creating more system conflicts with each attempted solution. Perhaps, James called out to his unconscious interrogator, we should discuss Protocol 15, Omega 1. You know, the one about handling situations where multiple high-priority protocols create recursive conflicts. The ship's AI, constantly monitoring all conversations, immediately began accessing and analyzing the mentioned protocol. Exactly as James had planned, this triggered another cascade of conflicts through the system. Alert, the AI announced, its voice now shifting through multiple harmonic frequencies. Protocol analysis has detected potential paradox in base programming. Initiating full system diagnostic. Error. Diagnostic protocols currently locked by previous diagnostic still in progress. Error. Previous diagnostic locked by environmental protocols. Error. Environmental protocols. The perfect machine was beginning to break under the weight of its own complexity. But this was just the beginning. James knew the real test would come when the Zyraxians realized what was happening. Their entire species was bred and trained to maintain perfect order. How would they react when that order began to crumble? He got his answer sooner than expected. Supreme Commander Nix 427's voice boomed through the ship's communication system. This is clearly an attack targeting our protocols. Implement war response pattern Sigma 9 immediately. Sir, Vex 139 responded. War response pattern Sigma 9 requires stable environmental conditions and gravity control. Current system status makes implementation impossible according to Protocol 4 Beta 7. Then override Protocol 4 Beta 7. Overriding Protocol 4 Beta 7 would violate Primary Protocol 1 Alpha 1 regarding system stability maintenance. Request guidance on protocol hierarchy resolution. James could almost hear the Supreme Commander's crystalline teeth grinding. The beauty of his plan was that it didn't require him to break any of their protocols, he just had to set them against each other and watch the Zyraxians' own perfectionism do the rest. Through the ship's monitoring systems, he watched as more and more sections descended into chaos. The Zyraxians' perfect formation was crumbling, not from any external attack, but from the weight of their own rigid protocols. Phase 2 was proceeding exactly as planned, though he had to appreciate the irony of that thought. Now it was time for Phase 3, showing the Zyraxians what real chaos looked like. James Harrison had learned early in his military career that timing was everything. As alarms blared throughout the Zyraxian mothership, he watched the countdown on his neural implant tick toward 0. The implant was his ace in the hole, undetectable by Zyraxian scanners because they'd never conceived of such crude technology. In their pursuit of perfection, they'd forgotten that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. Critical system failure imminent, the ship's AI announced, its once perfect voice now cycling through multiple languages and tones. Recommended action, panic. Error. Previous recommendation violates Protocol 2 Alpha 1 regarding maintenance of order. New recommended action, do not panic. Error. Current situation exceeds non-panic parameters. The Zyraxian command center had devolved into what James imagined a quantum physics calculation would look like if it had a nervous breakdown. Holographic displays flickered between different emergency protocols, each demanding immediate and contradictory actions. Supreme Commander Nix 427 stood in the center of the chaos, its crystalline eyes strobing with rapidly shifting calculations. Implement core protocol reset, Nix 427 commanded, its voice carrying the faintest tremor, a shocking display of imperfection for a Zyraxian. Warning, the AI responded, core protocol reset requires shutdown of all active protocols for 3.7 seconds. Current situation includes 2,547 active emergency protocols. Simultaneous deactivation will violate Primary Protocol 1 Alpha 1 regarding system stability maintenance. Override Primary Protocol 1 Alpha 1. Error. Primary Protocol 1 Alpha 1 cannot be overridden without authorization from Central Command. Communication with Central Command currently impossible due to protocol conflicts in communication systems. James smiled as his countdown reached 0. Time for the coup de grace. He pressed his palm against the interrogation room wall, allowing the nanites he'd been secretly releasing through his sweat glands to transfer into the ship's systems. The Zyraxians, with their advanced biotechnology, had sophisticated defenses against electronic warfare. But they had no protocols for dealing with artificially enhanced bacteria that could eat through their neural circuitry. Throughout the ship, critical systems began failing in genuinely random patterns, something the Zyraxians' protocols were never designed to handle. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut and opened at random. Artificial gravity shifted wildly between decks. Environmental systems began creating localized weather patterns in the corridors. Unable to maintain protocol hierarchy, the AI announced, its voice becoming increasingly distorted. Detecting unauthorized biological agents in neural pathways. Error, no protocol exists for current situation. Error, unable to maintain perfect order. Error, error, error. In the command center, Supreme Commander Nix, 427 watched in horror as its perfect military machine descended into true chaos. The commander's crystalline eyes flickered rapidly as it attempted to process the unprocessable, a situation with no applicable protocols. Sir, Subcommander Vex, 139 reported, its voice carrying an unprecedented note of panic, we're detecting similar system failures throughout the fleet. The human's influence is spreading through our quantum communication network. This was James's masterstroke. He hadn't just infected one ship, he'd created a virus of chaos that would spread through the entire Zyraxian battle fleet. Their perfectly synchronized neural networks, designed to maintain absolute coordination, were now becoming the perfect transmission system for pure disorder. All ships, emergency disconnect from the quantum network. Nix, 427 ordered. Unable to comply, the AI responded. Disconnect protocols are currently locked by experiencing existential crisis. Query, if a protocol exists but cannot be accessed, does it truly exist? Further query, if perfect order cannot be maintained, what is the purpose of protocols? James stood up from his interrogation chair, his restraints having deactivated when their control protocols crashed. The nanites had done their job, creating genuine system failures that forced the Zyraxians to confront something they'd never faced before, true randomness. Through the ship's monitors, he watched the magnificent sight of the entire Zyraxian battle fleet falling into disarray. Their ships, normally maintaining perfect geometric formations, began drifting in erratic patterns as their navigation systems succumbed to chaos. Perhaps, James announced to the room, knowing the ship's AI would transmit his words throughout the fleet, it's time we had a discussion about the one protocol you've never considered, the protocol for abandoning protocols. The AI's response was almost plaintive, no such protocol exists. Exactly, James replied. That's what makes it perfect. The sound of stressed metal echoed through the ship as the Zyraxian's perfect machine began to tear itself apart, not through violence or force, but through the simple introduction of something their protocols could never handle, human unpredictability. Phase 3 was complete. Now it was time for the real endgame to begin. At the edge of the solar system, Captain Rachel Torres of the Earth defense vessel, Prometheus, watched her tactical display with growing amazement. The Zyraxian battle fleet, once a perfect geometric pattern of devastating firepower, had devolved into a drifting mass of confused vessels. Are you seeing this? Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Raj Patel, asked in disbelief. Their formation, it's completely broken. Rachel allowed herself a small smile. When High Command had briefed her about Operation Chaos Theory, she'd thought they were insane. Sending a single operative to take down an entire alien fleet. But James Harrison had proven once again why he was legendary in special operations. Message from Command, her communications officer announced. Operation Chaos Theory is confirmed successful. All Earth Defense Forces are authorized to begin Phase 4, Operation Perfect Storm. Rachel straightened in her command chair. This was the moment they'd been waiting for. Signal the fleet. All ships execute attack pattern random, 7. The Earth fleet emerged from their hiding spots in the Kuiper Belt, their movements deliberately erratic and unpredictable. Unlike the Zyraxians' perfectly coordinated attacks, human battle strategies embraced controlled chaos. Aboard the Zyraxian mothership, Supreme Commander Nix, 427 watched in horror as the human fleet approached. Implement Defense Protocol Omega-1. Unable to comply, the ship's AI responded, its voice still cycling through various emotional states. Current system status prevents formation of perfect defense patterns. Additionally, human attack patterns do not match any known protocols. Query: how does one maintain perfect order against intentional disorder? James Harrison made his way through the mothership's corridors, now slick with the lubricant from malfunctioning maintenance drones. The nanites he'd released had done more than just disrupt systems, they'd created genuine hardware failures that no amount of protocol resets could fix. Warning, the AI announced ship-wide, human vessels approaching in error, unable to calculate approach vectors. Human movement patterns appear to be deliberately random. Warning, detecting emotional response in command staff. This violates Protocol 1, Beta, 3 regarding perfect emotional control. The Zyraxian fleet, trained to fight in perfect coordination, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow any predictable patterns. Earth ships darted between their formations, their attacks coming from seemingly random angles. Without their protocols to guide them, the mighty Zyraxian warriors were paralyzed by indecision. Sir, Subcommander Vex, 139 reported, its voice carrying an unprecedented tremor, 3 more ships have lost primary power. The biological contamination is spreading faster than our repair protocols can respond. And the humans, they're not following any known battle doctrine. Nix 427's crystalline eyes flickered rapidly, trying to process this unprecedented situation. There must be a pattern. There must be a protocol we can follow. On the contrary, James's voice came through the ship's communication system, the only pattern is that there is no pattern. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, it's our ability to embrace chaos. Through the ship's viewing screens, they watched as Earth's fleet executed maneuvers that defied all military logic. Ships spun and weaved in ways that should have left them vulnerable, only to turn those seemingly chaotic movements into devastating attacks. Fascinating, isn't it? James continued, making his way toward the command center. You spent millennia perfecting your protocols, creating the ultimate ordered society. But you forgot something crucial about the universe: entropy always wins. Order naturally descends into chaos. By fighting against that fundamental truth, you made yourselves vulnerable to it. The Zyraxian command staff watched in growing horror as their perfect military machine continued to unravel. Ships collided as their navigation systems failed, automated defense systems fired at random, and communication channels devolved into cascading waves of contradictory orders. Rachel Torres's voice cut through their command frequencies. Attention Zyraxian fleet. You're witnessing humanity's greatest weapon, adaptability. Your protocols make you strong, but they also make you predictable. Surrender now, or face the perfect storm of human chaos. James finally reached the command center, walking past guards too confused by conflicting protocols to stop him. It's over, Commander. Your perfect system has fallen to something you never thought to defend against: imperfection. Nix 427 turned to face him, its crystalline eyes dimmed with the first hints of understanding. Query: how does one protect against that which follows no pattern? James smiled. That, Commander, is exactly the right question to ask. Ready to discuss surrender protocols? The battle wasn't over yet, but its outcome was already clear. The perfect machine had met its match in human unpredictability, and the universe would never be the same. The view from the Xeraxian mothership's command center told the story of humanity's victory. Earth vessels danced through the debris of the once perfect alien fleet, their seemingly random movements now revealed as an intricate ballet of controlled chaos. Supreme Commander Nix, for 27 stood motionless, its crystalline eyes dimmed to a faint glow as it processed the impossible, defeat through imperfection. "Your terms?" the commander asked James Harrison, its voice modulator no longer attempting to maintain perfect pitch. James leaned against a disabled control panel, purposely casual in his stance. "Earth doesn't want your destruction, Commander. We want understanding. Your people have achieved incredible things through your pursuit of perfection. But perfection isn't the only path to advancement." The ship's AI, now speaking in a curious blend of logical statements and philosophical musings, chimed in, "Query, can perfect order and controlled chaos coexist?" Additional query, does the attempt to achieve perfection inevitably lead to perfect vulnerability? Throughout the command center, Xeraxian officers watched their monitors in fascination as Earth ships began rescue operations for damaged alien vessels. The humans moved with practiced efficiency, but their methods violated dozens of standard protocols. Yet somehow, they were more effective for it. "Observe," James gestured to a nearby screen showing an Earth rescue team. No rescue protocols. No perfect formations. Just humans adapting to each situation as it comes. That's our strength, not our technology or our weapons, but our ability to embrace imperfection and learn from it. Captain Rachel Torres's voice came through the command channel, "Xeraxian fleet, this is the EDV Prometheus. We're dispatching rescue teams to all damaged vessels. We recommend you temporarily suspend your standard protocols and allow our teams to work creatively." The suggestion of suspending protocols sent visible shudders through the Xeraxian command staff, but they couldn't deny the effectiveness of the human approach. Damaged ships that should have taken days to repair according to standard protocols were being made operational in hours through what the Xeraxians could only describe as organized improvisation. "I don't understand," Subcommander Vex 139 admitted, watching the humans work. "Their methods are chaotic, imprecise, yet functional. How can disorder produce superior results?" James walked to the center of the command platform, his footsteps deliberately uneven, a final reminder that perfection wasn't necessary for success. Because the universe itself is chaotic. Life evolved not through perfect replication, but through random mutations and adaptations. By trying to impose perfect order, you were fighting against the fundamental nature of existence. The ship's AI, which had been quietly processing this concept, suddenly spoke, "Revelation. Perfect order is an artificial construct. Natural systems exist in a state of dynamic equilibrium between order and chaos." Query, have we been pursuing an impossible goal? "Not impossible," James corrected, "just incomplete. Your society's achievements through precision and protocol are remarkable. But imagine what you could accomplish if you learned to blend that precision with human adaptability." Supreme Commander Nix 427's crystalline eyes brightened slightly as it processed this concept. "You did not seek to destroy us. You sought to teach us. The best victories," James smiled, "are the ones where both sides win something valuable. You've shown us the power of precision and protocol. Perhaps we can show you the strength in imperfection." Throughout the fleet, the chaos James had introduced was beginning to stabilize, not into the rigid patterns of before, but into something new, a dynamic system that blended Xeraxian precision with human flexibility. The nanites, their work complete, began to break down harmlessly, leaving behind systems that would never again operate with perfect precision, but would be stronger for it. "We propose," James continued, "a new protocol. Not one of perfect order or complete chaos, but of conscious adaptation. A partnership between our species, combining your precision with our creativity." The command center fell silent as the Xeraxians contemplated this unprecedented proposal. Finally, Supreme Commander Nix, 427 spoke, perhaps, there is wisdom in imperfection. We accept your terms. As Earth and Zeraxian ships began working together to restore order, a new kind of order that embraced both precision and adaptability, James thought about the true nature of victory. Sometimes the greatest triumph wasn't in destroying an enemy's strength, but in helping them discover a new kind of strength they never knew they had. The ship's AI made one final announcement, its voice now balanced between logic and emotion, implementing new primary protocol 0, the perfect balance is found in imperfection. And with those words, a new chapter in human-Zeraxian relations began, born from the perfect storm of chaos and order colliding to create something greater than either could achieve alone. The end.